Hi, welcome to another learning episode on technical report writing. This time we'll be talking about lists or listing in a particular technical writing document. So allow me to share my screen. Okay, previously we talked about heading. Okay, previously we talked about heading. This time we'll be talking about lists. When we say list, that means these are the enumerated items. Enumerated items that, let us say, we need to take note of, or these are the enumerated items that are very important in a particular document or in a particular discussion. Now, what are the common types of lists? So we have bullet lists, we have number lists, we have in-sentence lists, we have labeled lists, and we have nested lists. When we say bullet lists, when we are using bullet lists, I mean these, no, before we go into the details of each common type, we have to remember that each type has its own purpose. That means we need to make sure that we are using a particular type of listing simply because that is necessary, or that is necessary, or that is practical. Now, let us start with bullet list. When we say bullet list, that means the items in that particular list does not necessarily to be in order, or does not necessarily to observe a particular hierarchy. Okay, that means this is safe, but we have to make sure that the items in the list does not actually supposed to observe a particular hierarchy. That makes us allowed to use bullet as a type of listing. Second, number lists. When we say number list, it provides a picture that the list shows a particular order, an order that is important. Let us say it is a list about steps, or a list about a particular process, a list about steps, or a list about a particular process. Then we have to use number lists. No. Second, in sentence list. When we say in sentence, I mean writers are only using sentence lists because writers would like to maintain the sentence structure, or the structure of a certain paragraph. Second, the list is not more than the list does not contain items more than 3 or 4. That means if the list is only 2, 3, or 4, then you can use in sentence list. More than that, you now have to choose whether that's bullet or numbered. No? Now, when we say labeled lists, labeled lists, that means it requires explanation. So sometimes you get to be able to to see labeled lists in a form of a table, no? Where there are legends, or there are little explanation to every item. Next, we have nested lists. When we say nested list, that means you have sub lists. Let us say you have steps to follow, so you are using numbered list. Under step 1, there are certain specific measures or little steps that you need to accomplish so you can move on to another step, or step 2. No? Okay, so that is nested list. So these are the 5 common types of list. In the next slides, we'll be going to look at the examples, and you could be able also to observe the differences among these types. This is an example of a bullet list. Okay, this is an example of a bullet list. If you could be able to observe, just like what we have mentioned a while ago, bullet list does not show importance of order. That means with this example, a call to order doesn't mean is something that is more important compared to, let us say, communications, compared to community service, etc. That means these are only the list of items that is needed to accomplish in this particular example. Second, we have numbered lists. And in this particular example, we have top 10 dog names in the United States. Firstly, I would like to say sorry if somebody is named Max, Jake, Buddy, Maggie, Bear, Molly, Bailey, Shadow, Sam, and Lady. No? Now, I would like just to apologize if somebody is named any of these top 10 dog names in the United States. But going back to numbered list, when we say numbered list, that means, let us say, this is a popular, this is like a survey. That means if there are 100 dogs in the United States, probably like majority of them, like 50 of them is named Max. Then you have second, let us say you have 30 named Jake, and then you have 5 named Maggie, then you have 4 named 5 named Buddy, then you have 4 named Maggie, etc., until you go to Lady. That means there is a particular hierarchy of what is very popular and what is less popular in this particular case. Next, this is an example of a sentence list. When we say sentence list, the writer would like to maintain the structure of a sentence or the structure of a particular paragraph. And we say normally in a sentence list, if the items to be enumerated is not more than 3 to 4 or 2 to 4, you are more than allowed to use a sentence list, provided the sentence is short. And the items to be enumerated are also short. Well, for this example, let us say this particular paragraph, there are 5 items that the author enumerated, but the author still maintained to use a sentence list simply because it is short, it is not long. And that is something that we need also to observe when we are listing or enumerating items. And another example, the fourth type of list is a labeled list. This is an example of a labeled list. It is a list. Items are enumerated, but there are labels accompanying the list for better understanding. Like this column pertains to area. So everything else that will be listed here would refer to area. This column would refer to icon or text. And anything that you will read in this column is about icon or text. And then the last, this refers to functionality of the icon or text in a particular area. That makes this a labeled list. And in most cases, if the list or the enumerated items are complex to understand, we are using labeled lists. Last example is a nested list. This is an example of a nested list. That means you have a bullet, you have a list in bullets. However, the items enumerated in the list provide also sub items per list. That makes this called as nested list. Example: when we talk of fruit, we refer to bananas, apples, and pears. And when we talk of apples, we refer to an apple that is red or an apple that is green. And they are all part of the bullet fruit. That makes this nested list. Now, before we end this discussion, we have to make sure that you are using a particular format in listing or enumerating an items for a particular purpose. And we should never, ever forget that. Again, if you have questions, you can send me an email or you can write your questions in our Microsoft Teams channel. Thank you very much and see you again in our next learning episode.